Hello, and welcome to Culture Schlock Podcast. My name is Zach.
And that would make me Danny. Hello, everybody. We are back.
Woohoo!
I know you missed us. We got your letters.
One of them was from Joe Biden and was saying something about a stimulus, but I knew that was you guys writing in, so.
Yes, quite. So we have a very fun and probably more angry episode than usual today. Do we introduce our guest first or talk about the topic? Let's introduce our guest so he's not silently on the
Yeah,
line the whole time.
that's what I was going to say.
Our guest today is one of my friends from high school, more or less one of the only ones I still speak to. Heyo.
Hey.
It is my good friend Jeremy. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hi, thank you. Thank you
Hello.
for having me. Yeah.
Of course, we're glad to have you. For those of you who don't know Jeremy, the fact that he's here means we're probably going to talk about something super dweeby.
That's what I do. yeah, dweeby. Yeah.
And we hate talking about dweebiness, so we're
Oh,
really
yeah.
doing him a favor here.
I thought we were talking about football. I'm kind of pissed, honestly. So.
But our topic for the day, it's about the DC cinematic universe, but more specifically, the Snyderverse, but even more specifically, the Snyder Cut of Justice League.
More like the Snyder butt, am I right?
I think we got it. I think that's as good as we're going to get this episode.
Well, that was the episode. See you guys later.
Thanks for having me.
We all sat down and watched it separately, safely, more or less. Well, in the first weekend, I think we all sat down and watched it.
Yeah.
And a warning, none of us like Zack Snyder DC movies. Jeremy is probably the only one with the closest to neutral opinion.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And I am a ball of rage, but so we're not telling you can't like these movies, but we're gonna pick apart what we did not quite love. So the year is 2017.
Mm-hmm.
We were all still pretty bummed that the Back to the Future 2015 didn't happen.
Oh, yeah.
Finger on the pulse, that's what I remember. And Justice League comes out after there were only three movies before it.
Yeah, I think some Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, and then did Wonder Woman come out before? I think.
No, I thought Suicide Squad
That was
did.
after.
Oh,
Wait.
you're right. That's it. Yeah, Suicide Squad. Wow.
Oh no, Wonder Woman was out.
Was it out?
Yes, it was the only other one that was out at that point.
It released in 2017. I don't know the date off the top of my head. What?
Wonder Woman released in like spring, and because I saw it at our college campus.
Okay.
And I wouldn't do that on purpose. And then Justice League was like Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. You got it right. It looks like it was like May for Wonder Woman, November for original cut of Justice League.
Yeah. So what did you guys think about the as it is now called, the Justice League?
Oh God. I remember I did not see it in theaters because Batman versus Superman left a very bad taste in my mouth. Wonder Woman I did enjoy for the most part. The third act of that movie is kind of a mess, but I enjoyed it for the most part. But I remember I waited. I think I red boxed it, and I remember thinking it was not good. I remember there were certain things I enjoyed, and here's the thing: I'm probably going to bring this up, and this isn't a hot take or anything because I'm pretty sure even people who really love Zack Snyder movies, this is what they like. He is very good at setting up cool pictures to look at, like cool screenshots that I'll see on IGN.com later. That's pretty much what he does. And there are moments in Justice League where I felt that way. It was like, oh, that's a cool thing to look at. That's a cool little bit of imagery. But other than that, yeah, I felt like characters were very weird. I remember thinking that very funnily, Batman gets his ass kicked pretty much the entire movie. Like he never really does anything other than get the shit beat out of him by everybody and everything.
Hmm.
I remember hating Barry Allen Flash. I thought he was annoying. Like his quips were not funny, and he was just kind of weird. I remember I did not have an opinion really on Cyborg or Aquaman because they were not really there. They were set dressing. And then I thought Gal Gadot Wonder Woman was okay, but she was just didn't have a lot to do. She had a lot of the more exposition-y lines, if I remember right, and I do remember Barry Allen landed in her boobs.
Comedy.
Yeah. Oh, Joss Whedon. Now that we know things about you, that's adds up.
Oops.
Yeah.
I remember I really liked Man of Steel and the the stupid Batman movie. I did not like that one. Um, I kind of I remember at the time I really wanted to like it because I love Batman. That's like my thing. And you know I really wanted this to be good and you know it kind of wore on me. It was hard and then Wonder Woman came out and Wonder Woman was a lot better, so I had hope for Justice
Yeah.
League.
For sure.
And then just opening with that stupid non-mustached face of Superman. I just all of my hopes just disappeared, and I like sunk into my seat and just sobbed internally for the duration of that movie. So yeah, I did not like the original cut.
Much like Henry Cavill's mustache, all your
Yes.
goodwill was wiped away.
Yep. Very poorly and with pixelated lips. Yeah.
See, I remember walking out of the theater not like loving it, but liking it a lot more than most of the movies that came before it.
Yeah.
I considered, I wasn't like, that was incredible, but
Yeah.
I just remember feeling like it was a step in the right direction in many ways. Like, I feel like, you know what, for all the crap that's coming out about Joss Whedon and how horrible he is on set and all the dumb things he did do to Justice League,
Yeah.
I do think his take on Superman, I liked it more than Zack Snyder's.
Fair.
I just liked that he, like, didn't look like he wanted to kill himself all the time. I'm sorry. Zack Snyder Superman always looks like he's 2 seconds away from self-harm. But
a Superman for the Zoomer generation.
yeah, and I liked that. I guess I'm always intrigued by the idea of a Batman and Wonder Woman pairing, even though I don't think in execution it ever really works for me.
Oh yeah.
But there was, some light flirtation there, and I was like, okay, maybe in 3 movies I can get on board with this. But and then the more it sat with me, the more I'm like, ugh, it's still so bad.
Yeah.
But then fans rejoiced because HBO threw a ton of money at Zack Snyder to reinvest in his pure vision for Justice League, and we definitely got it.
Yeah, we did. It says right at the beginning. It says that whatever the aspect ratio is preserved, right down to that. We got everything you ever wanted.
Through all 4.5 hours, you could just feel how Zack Snyder it was.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if there's one thing I will give it, and I mean honestly, here's the thing: I'm glad at the end of the day they did it because now, I mean, first and foremost, I don't have to hear people talk about it as much anymore, demanding it and crying for it. But just the fact, because there was a lot of sad stuff. Like in case people don't know, the reason why Joss Whedon stepped in and kind of took over the original cut of Justice League was because Zack Snyder had a very bad family tragedy. I believe
Yes.
he lost like one of his daughters maybe his only daughter, I can't remember, but yeah, definitely there was a lot of stuff that prevented, him from finishing that original cut of the movie. And I'm glad. I think I read an interview with him where he said pretty much not only was it good to finally be able to get his vision out there, but it was like cathartic to finally
Yeah.
kind of put a bookend on everything. And that's why there's like several, not to jump ahead or anything, but several codas. Like there's like multiple quote unquote after credit scenes at the end of the movie, like setting up for things that probably won't happen, since apparently they're not doing anything more with the Snyderverse. But now a lot of people are wanting them to do more.
See, that bugged me. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, like, I'm glad he got to get some peace, and I am glad he got to do his version, but I hated that he added a bajillion,
yeah,
like, 20-minute scenes that should have been end credit stingers on a movie that I knew was never gonna get a sequel.
yeah. In execution, yeah, in execution, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense and feels weird. But I think they were just letting him. But supposedly, now I'm seeing stuff that supposedly what John Stewart Green Lantern was supposed to be in the movie. So maybe I thought they were doing it to let him like just put all his footage out there, so he
Oh,
could be like,
no,
here's
no,
my
no, no.
real
It's
stuff.
been very clear that he still cut footage, and I
Yeah,
don't know how.
that's insane. Yeah, blows my mind.
Watching that movie, it does not feel like there was anything cut.
No.
I swear at one point, like my 10-year-old birthday party went across. I was like, how do you get that footage? Where did that footage come from?
So, we're gonna just jump in and like talk about specific parts of the movie now.
Mm,
I want to be clear going in, I do have this is more for the viewers than you guys. I don't care what you two think.
okay.
I do have positives written down. There are things that I do think are improvements upon the
Mhm.
Justice League, and I noted them. I made sure I noted them because a lot of my notes get very angry.
That's fair. I don't have many positive things, but yeah, I have a few things I want to bring up that I enjoyed as
Yes.
well.
So, let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start.
Oh.
I'm so funny. So instead of going "Huh," at Henry Cavill's face,
Oh, you broke me. I'm sorry.
we start with Henry Cavill getting stabbed through the chest once again,
Much better.
and then he starts super screaming in pain, and you go, okay. And like when it started for me, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. It's like the scream heard around the world. It really did shake the foundation of the earth in this universe. But then
Yeah.
it was also literal and also 7 minutes long.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it went on it got I think I was live texting you as I watched it, because I watched it after you.
Mhm.
And I liked the imagery at first. I was like, okay, that is kind of cool, but yeah, it literally it's like every minor character reacts to it, and it just, yeah, it went on it got comical to me, to the point I was like, oh man.
In my notes here, I actually, something that you said, Zach, I said, Zack Snyder is the king of taking an idea that could be really fun and effective and then stretching it out so goddamn long that it
Yeah.
becomes absolutely intolerable.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, he really enjoys, like I said, imagery, and especially imagery set to music. Like
Mhm.
basically, Zack Snyder is the kid who used to make Dragon Ball Z AMVs on YouTube set to like Evanescence, but with like a multi-million-dollar budget. Like he just shows slow motion fighting with grayscale effects put on it to
Mhm.
booty shaking banging beats, and he calls it a day.
But there's something else with the scream that I noticed, and it was like that the Superman's, death scream
Hmm.
like awakened the mother boxes.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, how?
Yeah.
Yeah. The I don't well I don't really know, but I think I guess what because I just I'm looking a little bit ahead because I think I had the same question. And at one point, like, okay, so it says something about how like the boxes were like afraid of Superman, although like I don't know how it could have been afraid of him before he showed up
Yeah.
because that doesn't make any sense, but whatever. But so somehow they were aware that he was there, and and so whatever his magic shockwave that goes around the planet when he screams that only important characters can hear. I guess that maybe it's supposed to be more like metaphorical. Like it's not.
Yeah.
Like people aren't actually turning around and hearing him scream. Like that can't be what's happening, right? That just seems
can't tell.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So maybe because they're like computers or something, they can here's a CNN video that Superman just died. You know, he got stabbed to death. You know,
okay.
so
Okay.
maybe that's what's happening.
I mean,
I don't know.
He just explains everything to death, and I don't understand why there are still moments like this where I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Well, he just needs more time.
He just needed I'm waiting for the 8-hour cut.
Yeah.
But also, like, okay, point to Justice League. They establish in the very beginning after the mustache iPhone footage okay, that parademons have come to scout the planet. And I'm like, that makes sense. That's a sensical way of telling us that this is how Steppenwolf's gonna find out about the junk here.
Yeah.
But here it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they're just it's the scream heard round the world.
Another thing that I noted, and it runs through the whole film, I think one of the benefits of being able to complete your film in hindsight, you know, with the ability to see what the movies that came after it did, would be to be able to like slightly adjust or adapt your material based on what worked in those movies. But Zack Snyder went, nope. Nothing about Themyscira or Atlantis is remotely recognizable to me.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah,
I mean, the whole movie is basically like, fuck Aquaman.
Yeah, basically. Yeah,
they took all the lore and time they spent in Aquaman and just went, nope.
Yeah.
I mean, that movie made $1 billion, but what do they know?
Speaking of, I just want to mention I think they recently announced the Trench spin-off movie is no longer on Warner Brothers slate, so rest in peace the spin-off movie to the little fish demons that showed up in one scene in Aquaman.
For the first time since that movie was announced, I'm not asking why. But yeah, just the whole movie just completely treads all over, especially Aquaman. And this is gonna come up later, but I want to say it now because it's driving me insane. So Zack Snyder didn't know how to make talking underwater work.
Oh yeah.
Fair enough. But now you have seen a movie, theoretically. I guess it's only theoretical that he's seen the movie Aquaman.
Yeah.
But theoretically, he could have seen that movie. And even more, he could have spoken to the director and asked him how he did it. Because honestly, the underwater talking in Aquaman works.
Yeah.
The underwater effects are very well made. So he could have asked, okay, how do I change what I did? Because what I did is very time-consuming and boring and dumb.
Yeah.
Because every time an Atlantean underwater needs to speak, one of them makes an air bubble. And it's a time-consuming thing to make. It does not come quickly. There's one scene, I think, when they're trying to defend the Mother Box in Atlantis, where Mera makes, I think I counted them, 4 different air bubbles to speak. I was just like, good God.
She's got to use the technique from SpongeBob every time she blows a bubble.
But also they later in the movie, sorry, I'm now just about Aquaman lore. That's what the podcast is about now. But later, we have just seen Steppenwolf question an Atlantean who was just basically slaughtered by his armies. We're shown a battlefield after it's over and Steppenwolf won. And they are not in the water. And he goes, tell me where the box is or whatever. Something like that, probably.
Hey, where's the box?
And the Atlantean's like, I'm not gonna tell you. And then he puts a brain bug in him or something. But then, like, the very next scene, we are seeing Wonder Woman and Batman look for their other recruits. It's like 40 minutes in, they haven't met the other recruits, naturally.
Yeah.
And Diana is like, oh, Arthur can speak and breathe above water in our air because he's mixed blood.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, first of all, no. That's a dumb explanation, and it doesn't really explain how Arthur could exist. But I was also like, we just saw a scene where an Atlantean was talking.
Yeah.
And we've already seen 17 air bubbles being created so that Atlanteans can speak. It doesn't make sense with the Aquaman movie, and it doesn't even make sense with itself.
Yeah.
And it gave me an aneurysm.
Well, I have a question because I don't remember how they did that in the original cut. So did they have air bubbles in the original one?
They did, but there was so much less Atlantis in it that it really didn't stick out. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, they did make the air bubble when Arthur and Mara needed to speak, but there wasn't. It was just basically the one.
Yeah, it's just like one scene in the Joss Whedon cut. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, and I agree. I mean, even in the Joss Whedon cut, though, I remember thinking that's weird and very, like, it's just like, make them, like, here's the thing. And I've heard a lot of people say with Zack Snyder discourse and stuff online, like, he kind of embraces, like, the wacky comic bookiness of it. And to a point, I will say, yeah, there is a lot of stuff.
Really?
Like, not,
Sorry.
no, yeah, I would say
No, you're right. You're right.
It's bits and pieces. Some shit he feels the need to ground it to the point, like, to make it like gritty and dark and real, for lack of better terms. But then other things like Barry Allen suddenly at the end of this cut, not to jump ahead, but going into the Speed Force and reversing time, like, it's just like, okay, like, shit like that is wacky and weird. And I feel like people like like them having to make the air bubbles, it's like, just let them talk underwater. Like,
I just don't think either of them knew logistically how to make that work. It very much felt like James Wan came onto Aquaman and figured it out.
Yeah, it's just like any time in a comic book, like whether it's in DC or like Marvel with the Submariner or whatever, it's like, just let them talk fucking underwater. Like, just let them talk to each other underwater. I'm already watching a man fly around shooting lasers from his eyes. I can suspend my disbelief and have people speak to each other underwater.
Yeah, we live in a world with aliens. Like, I think I can get on board with certain kinds of people being able to speak underwater.
Yeah, the moment Maris starts talking underwater, I just go, okay, kids, come on, we're leaving.
I was promised a grounded story about sea people.
Yeah. Okay, kids, come on, we're leaving. We're watching this at home on HBO Max.
But yes, that got very distracting. Let's move on because we've got lots of other stuff to talk about. Someone just name something they want to talk about.
I'll talk, I guess, kind of bringing up the fact that I brought up that in the original cut, that Cyborg and Aquaman are kind of just there as set dressing. I'll start off with Cyborg, I guess, and we can talk a little bit more about Cyborg.
Yeah.
So, little context. I'm not sure if people follow like Twitter discourse or whatever, but supposedly with Joss Whedon, and I can't remember the name of the guy, the producer, Greg something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
Joss and Greg.
Yeah, Joss and Greg are like the bulk and skull of real life. But supposedly Ray Fisher, the actor who plays Cyborg, has gone on record several times saying that there was a lot of really poor treatment to him, possibly racially motivated, about how he was treated on set, and also how a lot of his stuff was cut out of the movie, apparently more than a lot of the other characters. And so in this movie, there is a ton more Cyborg stuff. He has a lot more to do.
And truly, for better and for worse, there is more Cyborg content.
there's a good amount, yeah, a good amount of good stuff and a good amount of bad stuff. So with Cyborg, they pretty much, in a lot of the trailers for the original, there was a lot of scenes of him like playing football and stuff, which in the comics that is like his backstory.
We
And
all
we
watch Teen Titans. We know.
booyah. Um, so yeah, we get to see that scene fully play out and everything about the accident as well as the ensuing accident that caused him to basically die, and his dad bring him back using the technology of the Apocalyptian Mother Box to bring him back, since his dad works at Star Labs and everything. So we get to see a lot more of the birth of Cyborg, whereas I'm trying to remember. I wanted to try to rewatch Justice League before we did this, but I just didn't get around to it. Do they show anything of his rebirth? Because I'm thinking the only thing we saw of it was on the email attachment in Batman versus Superman.
Well, that's the thing. We do see it in the email attachment.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
didn't necessarily need this in-depth of discussion. I mean, like the rebirth itself, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind seeing, well, I think it's funny because the way we go into the Victor at football
Mhm.
thing is he looks outside and sees kids playing football, and I'm like, that's enough for me. And then they transition and they're like, here is a literal flashback of him literally playing football. And I'm like, I guess that's fair. I don't think we needed both of these things, but
True. Yeah. I just like overall, and I like I said, I definitely do think there's a lot of weird stuff with him, like stuff that I'm not sure I like. Like they make him pretty angry, which I mean I get, like especially given his condition, the fact that he was dead and brought back to life is basically like a Frankenstein's monster against his will. But he gets, I think, one of the first swears in the movie where he literally says "fuck
the
the world,"
world.
which is a very Zack Snyder thing. He was a little too bitter at times for me, but overall I would say on the whole I enjoyed the changes in the additions just because it gave us actual cyborg stuff for him to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely in the original cut I had no, like, like you were talking about, I have no context of, like, why he's even a part of this movie. Like he seemed so like it's so funny because, like, I remember at the time it's like he shouldn't be here at all, because like Superman can, like, he can separate these three boxes and all this stuff. It's like, why is this robot guy here?
Yeah.
And then now, I mean, it honestly, it makes a lot more sense to me, with this, like, I really appreciated a lot of the changes or a lot of the things that they added into this one, where it's like, yeah, with, like, like everything else in this movie, it was way too long, but
Yeah.
it was at least like, I think I understand more where he's coming from and why he's all upset and and whiny all the time.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I think it makes a lot more sense, and at least at this point in the movie, I'm not as upset of how long everything's taking. So maybe that's why I'm not
Oh,
as
good for you. As soon as it started,
Yeah.
I was upset with how long it was.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think I do agree. I think Cyborg's characterization was a lot stronger, and I do
Mhm.
appreciate that we got a lot more time with him. I think the only real moment with Cyborg himself that didn't sit well with me was like when he's like in his head realizing all the things he can do, and like a program pretending to be his dad or something is like, you can launch nukes and crash world economies.
Oh yeah.
But the point is learning not to want to. I'm like, excuse me? Because it like came right after we saw him like steal. He did steal. He rewired money to give to this waitress woman who needed it for her and her kids. And you're like, oh, that's so cute. That's sweet.
Mm,
He's using this thing that we know he hates to at least put some good into the world. I like that.
Mhm.
But then
yeah.
Silas is like, I hope you learn not to want to nuke the world, son.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, stop. Victor would never want to do that.
You can
You
use
should
your
definitely
powers.
warn him.
You could use your powers to order pizzas and send them to places when they don't have the money to pay for them. Minor inconveniences.
But it was just like, hey, Silas, not everyone wants to nuke the world or crash the world economy.
Yeah.
It's like, is Lex Luthor here? Like,
Yeah.
he is 4 hours later,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Mhm.
Takes a bit, but he'll show up. Sadly, he's not shoving Jolly Ranchers into anyone's mouth. I can't believe that footage got cut. I mean, I waited the entire movie for that to happen, and it didn't.
speaking of Lex Luthor, I think it's hilarious because you can tell Zach toned him down.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that you're not gonna make me forget that you're the one that messed this up in the first place, buddy.
Yeah. I will say though, Jesse Eisenberg, we're kind of jumping all over the place now, but I guess Jesse Eisenberg, with the shaved head and in one of the little first Coda things where he gets on the yacht to hang out with Deathstroke, on Deathstroke's boat that he lives on, apparently, because it's the only place we ever really see him. Um, he with the shaved head and the suit, he did look the part, and I was shocked how much I thought he did look the part, because I still think that's such a bizarre casting choice. Not just the way that he plays the character, but just his overall look.
Mm-hmm.
But with that shaved head and the suit on and everything, and with him kind of being, like you said, toned down, I was like, okay, if we did get more of this, I could possibly
Yeah.
see him getting into that character.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that this version of the scene did convince me that in a non-existent sequel, I could get behind a Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor,
Yeah.
but it's a moot.
Yeah.
Oh.
So bouncing off, so we talked a little bit about Cyborg. Do we have anything to say about Aquaman? Anything they added or changed in regards to Arthur?
I find it funny that it's like his whole thing is water and stuff, and he's like throwing his broken glass and stuff into the ocean while he's gonna go take a
Littering.
swim. It's like I mean, why are you're littering in the ocean? Isn't this like your home? Like, don't you?
Yeah,
it just
glass is gonna
seems
kill
stupid.
some fish, buddy.
I know. Yeah, they're friends, and he's like murdering them.
Remember in Aquaman when Orm throws all of the pollution back onto the land, and you're like, you know what? He's got a point.
Yeah, I fucking love.
Now we're like, looking at you, Arthur.
Yeah, Aquaman is not the best movie, but there's a lot of stuff in Aquaman I like, and that was one of my favorite parts of that. I was like,
I think Aquaman was probably among my favorites in terms of, yeah, it's if you want to think rationally about a fish man, it's
Yeah.
gonna look dumb.
yeah,
So turn that part of your brain off and just enjoy it.
yeah. That movie is like the definition, I think, of like suspend your disbelief and have a good fucking time. Like,
Yeah, don't question it. Just if you just let it take you, it's a really fun movie.
I will say though, I as much as I enjoy James Wan's Aquaman, the part towards the beginning of the Snyder Cut, when Bruce goes looking for Aquaman, and as he descends into the water and the random ladies start singing,
Oh my goodness.
that is when I realized what movie I was watching. And I think I remember I paused and looked at like the little time thing to see how much time I had, and it was whatever, it was like 4.5 hours. I was like, that's what I realized what I was in for.
It's again one of
Yeah.
those moments where you're like, okay, I get what they're going for here, and then it's 2 minutes later and that lady is still singing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought we were moving on. I thought that song would be more of a transition, but we are just sitting here now.
Yeah. And once again, this is not a hot take. I'm not spitting anything new here, but Zack Snyder is really into like the whole viewing superheroes through the lens of gods, especially like Judeo-Christian
Yeah.
imagery and such. And
And I do think DC is the right place to explore that stuff.
yes, Exactly. DC, like, I think they literally for a time called like Superman, Wonder Woman, like the gods, like in their marketing,
Mhm.
like they're like, this is where the gods and the kings and the queens like reside or whatever. So like clearly they lean into that, and like obviously, like, once again, that's totally fine, and I think that is a very viable way somebody can look at superheroes, is like they are the gods of our generation. But it gets so tiring after a bit, like to see Superman standing there like in a T pose in the sunlight for the fifth time. It's
How
just
many
like,
times
hey,
can one man look like he's getting crucified?
yeah, we get it. Yeah, and that part with them basically like worshiping Aquaman as he litters into the ocean and swims away very fast.
But
Yeah,
they have his
just
sweater now.
oh yeah, they do. He got naked a lot. Yeah, a lot of his clothes, like,
Who needs
clear.
them?
Yeah, clearly they won't be worth eBay a whole lot because he gets naked a lot. He throws his clothes
Mhm.
everywhere.
Well, maybe finding one intact that it wasn't just torn off when
True.
he's
Yeah.
dramatically jumping in. So
Yeah.
finding an intact sweater is
This one
pretty
has some
cool.
of his trash stuck to it too.
This one still has a shard of that beer bottle he threw. I want to talk now about Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Both in the context of versus Joss Whedon's version and how she is portrayed in her other two movies, because Joss Whedon does a lot of upskirting in his camera techniques. He
Wonder why.
he did it in Avengers, and he did it again plenty of times in Justice League. There are gratuitous shots of her butt where it does not make sense to show it. But in general, I didn't mind her characterization in the Snyder cut. There was just a lot of choices around what she was doing that bothered me.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole big long, of course long, every scene in this movie is long. A big long scene of her like going to a Greek temple and like discovering the tale of Darkseid.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of like, I don't understand what that adds when in the theatrical version, she just knew because her mom was there.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
that makes sense. You don't need to sell me that. Like, yeah, Diana would probably know about the concept of Darkseid or of invading aliens. So that we got 10 minutes of her running around looking for hieroglyphs that showed that.
Yeah, I thought that whole thing was weird.
I mean, but just like, especially because they have that whole, that circle building that fell into the ocean, that the whole building dedicated to this mother box. Like, she has to know, like, oh, what's that circle over there? Like when she's like running around, 400 years ago or whatever, she has to know.
Yeah.
At some point.
And it felt weird that she knew all about the signal fire, which is clearly there for only alien invasions. But she was like, "Oh, what?" And then she had to look in the tomb and be like, "Oh, word, aliens!"
Right next to where that arrow lands for the alien invasion, there's a little spot for an arrow specifically for Taco Tuesday, when the Amazons are letting everyone know that it's Taco Tuesday.
I thought you were going to say on the wall of the temple, right by where the arrow lands, it's revealed that someone scratched in Darkseid was here.
It's carved in with his laser eyes.
I think one thing that I think all Wonder Woman movies, all movies that she is presented in from the first one, are just kind of cruel because they don't let her move on from Steve Trevor at all.
No, yeah.
And I'm not one of those, it doesn't matter how short she knew him. I get that people are going to have importance to you regardless of length of time they were in your life. But the fact that it is 2015 in this movie and she's still not over a man that died in like 2021, I'm kind of like, I'm sorry, that's too much for me. It was too much for me even in Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I feel like while I like, sorry, I'm not gonna. You have both heard my tangents on Wonder Woman 1984, so I'm not gonna get back into them. But I don't think it's a bad idea or makes no sense that she would wish for him to be back on something like a wish stone. Fully agree with that, but just the fact that she is like actively grieving for 100 years, I'm like, that's too long.
Yeah.
But no scene rubbed me worse than the bank heist. First of all, this isn't about Wonder Woman, but we now have 2 additional minutes of watching the terrorists walk into the bank. Thank God.
I needed to see that because I myself have wanted to rob a bank, and now I know the best way to do it. So thank you, Zack Snyder.
There are a million scenes like that in the movie where I'm like, well, how could I have coped? No wonder the Justice League didn't make any sense. But there's just a lot of things in the bank heist scene I don't appreciate in either version, but this version ramps a few things up a notch. Positive, there are no upskirt shots in this version. Thanks, Zack Snyder. But the way, first of all, she's chucking men into walls indiscriminately. I mean, Wonder Woman has a ruthless side to her, but I don't know. It's both of her movies. She is determined, and as a character, she's like, you're a bad guy, but that doesn't make you unworthy of life. Now she's just like splattering them against walls.
Tombstone pile driving people into the ground.
Yeah. But also, like, the way she moves in that scene felt very off.
Yeah.
And not just from her movies. The way she moved in Batman v Superman as well was very different. Like, she moved too fast, but she was also somehow too heavy.
Yeah, she's like a flying brick, and I noticed that. I noticed that too. There's a few scenes in Wonder Woman 1984 too where I kind of felt that, like just the way it's shot, and I don't know exactly what that is. Like I'm not like I can appreciate cinematography and stuff, but I'm not like an expert on it. I don't know if it's just the way if it's framed or if it's like compositing or what it is, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, at least some of the heaviness is because of the sound. Yeah. They're adding sounds that make her feel like she weighs 2 tons. It just felt very disorienting to see and hear because that's not generally what she has sounded like and felt like watching. But also she uses her bracelet, boom.
Yeah.
And the police outside are like, there are terrorists in there with a bomb. They don't know Wonder Woman showed up. So to their knowledge, the terrorists are entirely in control of the situation still. Because they got kids in there. They're very specific.
They don't know that Wonder Woman exists though, right? Like they don't, is this still, I can't remember how this happens anymore. Do people know about Wonder Woman or not?
No,
okay, all right.
They don't.
All right. So so that little girl that should have been terrified from watching a bunch of people just get thrown into a wall and then half the building exploding and being like, oh, I want to be like you, murdering a bunch of people.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about even that.
Wonder Woman hands her a gun and says, "You can be."
So she didn't grow up and tell all of her friends that, oh, I was saved by this lady, who is in love with this old guy that died, and now everybody knows about her. But yeah, it's like I don't understand how they can balance this she stays hidden, but she also shows her face a lot and talks to children. It just seems
very weird.
Yeah, and then 1984 is like, really? Why does no one know about Wonder Woman?
It's not like she doesn't wear a mask.
But yeah, I just like she explodes the building, and so I'm just like, the police, for all they know, the police are like, oh shit, the terrorists just blew up the building, and that's where they should charge in to try to find out what happened, and they're apparently just not concerned about that. Yeah, it just felt like there was a very weird disregard for human life in that scene that Wonder Woman doesn't generally have.
Right.
like she's willing to make some she's willing to sacrifice some lives for the sake of the whole, but not to this
Yeah.
degree.
Hmm.
And it felt
Yeah,
yucky.
definitely. I agree with that absolutely. Like you nailed pretty much. Those are pretty much the only things I really had to say on Wonder Woman were the weird Tomb Raider scene where she goes into the place to read the hieroglyphics, and then yeah, the additional bank stuff. I feel like overall her character, getting rid of obviously the gross boob falling and upskirts is a plus. And that, but yeah, some of the weird motivational additional tacked on stuff was just kind of like whatever. But overall, I
Mhm.
think yeah, she still is like the beacon of the DC EU. Like she is
Yeah.
the best character there is of any of the
Mhm.
Justice League folk.
Mm.
But I do also want to add to make sure I get one of my positives in. The scene where the Amazons are fighting Steppenwolf,
Yes.
while entirely too
Mm,
long,
mhm.
is much improved. It doesn't feel like it's one of those moments where you're like, okay, I see why the Amazons are considered some of the greatest warriors on
Mhm.
Mhm.
Earth. They did hold their own against Steppenwolf for the whole 20-minute sequence. But yes, I was like, I understand. It made the Amazons more impressive while also simultaneously making sure we understood how much of a threat Steppenwolf
Yeah.
really
Mhm.
is, because he's beating
Yes.
them.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Jeremy brought it up. I liked as long as it went on. I liked the circle building trap
Yeah.
thing. I thought that was a pretty cool idea. I was like, okay. Like at first, I just thought it was like they were gonna
Yeah.
just lock them in there, and then I was like, no, we're sending that bitch in the ocean. I was like, oh, okay. I like that. That's pretty practical. It's a
Yeah.
Sink
yeah,
this
it's a
bitch.
cool action set piece. I enjoyed that. That may have
Mhm.
been. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I would say my two favorite action set pieces in the entire movie were that, and then I did enjoy Barry Allen going back in time because I am
Mm.
not the biggest
Yes.
Flash fan, but when I do think of the Flash, like my favorite stuff with him is kind of like the Flashpoint, weird
Mm.
time travel-y, Speed Force stuff, and I did enjoy.
They still tell us we're getting that
Yeah,
movie.
supposedly, and I Jesus, I can't wait to see.
They keep telling me, and I keep going, okay, okay,
Yeah,
show it to
okay,
me.
Grandma, let's put you to bed.
That probably means we should talk about the
Yeah,
Flash.
I was gonna say that's probably a good transition place, and
I think I brought it up with both of you in private conversations that I think it's personally hilarious because people who adore Zack Snyder hated the Flash in the Justice League.
mm,
And then you watch the 4.5 hour Snyder cut and he's not
no,
different.
yeah,
But now all of a sudden he's
yeah,
great. Even though I think for me, because the tone is more serious, he has even less of a place in this
yes,
movie,
yes.
you
He
know?
feels exactly you. That's pretty much what I have in my notes. Is I agree absolutely with what you said that people for some reason seem to love him a lot more now, even though he gets extra scenes just like everyone else does, but he's pretty much the same character, but he feels like truly fish out of water in this movie. Like
Mm.
he clashes. I would even argue just visually. Like I have a picture pulled up of all of them together, and like his suit, and like they establish, like they don't even say how he did it, but when Bruce Wayne comes and picks him up, he's like, your costume is a frictionless material. It's like he built his weird speed skate suit, like, and it looks so vastly different to everyone else's costume. I feel like he even looks out of place.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think the main thing that we're probably going to touch on, because I mean, Jeremy, do you agree? Do you like the Flash in the Speed Force at the end?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I do like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we all generally agree that I mean, for me, that's one of the strongest moments
Yes.
in the
Mhm.
film.
I think he acted the hell out of that scene when his
Hmm.
leg. He's like, "All right, come on, come on!" Like talking
Mhm.
himself up. It reminded me a lot of in Spider-Man: Homecoming, the scene that's
Oh
an
yeah.
homage to "If This Be My Destiny." In the comics, where he's under the rubble, he's like, "Come on, Spider-Man, you can do this!" Like he's got to like
Mm.
hype himself up,
Hmm.
which I
Mhm.
love that moment. And I like this moment pretty much for the same reason because he's like the baby of the group, and he hasn't been hitting a lot of people. He's just pretty much been ducking and weaving away from fights the whole movie, and it's like his time. He's got to like do something. I thought he acted it well, and like I said, I think it's a really cool set piece. I think it's really dope. Yeah.
I now it's time to shit on it.
Okay.
I do not like. I feel like there are even more Wonder Woman jokes from him. Like it's brought up in Justice League, like, oh, he thinks she's hot, but I feel like there's even more of that in this cut because there's even more of everything. And I was just, I didn't like that.
No.
I found it gross. Yeah. And I'm not saying men on screen can't talk about women, like
avert your eyes.
And it's all building up to the part I really want to talk about that everyone has talked about. The Iris West hot dog stand scene.
Yeah.
It's so bad in every way to me.
I was curious, Jeremy, what is your opinions on that scene? Because
I have a mixed opinion. I like the scene in general. So
you're leaving.
Yeah, so let me talk.
You're on.
So I think the concept I really like of being able to see him for the first time, do this, like you see his powers kind of presented in the movie. I think it was a good way to do it, where it's like, he's not in his fancy suit, and it's just him standing around. So I like seeing his shoes explode, although I don't know why like the rest of his like outfit isn't like in flames. That it seems like
where was the Flash's dick?
Yeah, exactly.
Release the big cut.
But like, ignoring that part, it was neat to see him, like, it also sort of introduces who he is too. It's like he's in the middle of doing this thing for himself, but he's going to go run out and save somebody. So that's all yay, happy superhero moment. But I don't really like the he's like looking at her like before she's like like she's leaving the pet
as
store.
She's dying.
Yeah, and then it's like, and then touching her hair and stuff. It's like just stop. Like, you can grab the hot dog for your stupid dog thing after this, but that's enough. I just save her, put her down, and then go feed the dog. Like, we don't need to see you creepily touching this person while she's dying gorgeously.
You look so beautiful in your moments from your death. Yeah. Let me tell you what really bugs me about it, and it's the hot dog. That moment broke me. So many moments in this movie broke me, but that one really got me. Because first of all, he grabs it before he saves her life.
Yeah.
The man has to have priorities, Danny.
Yeah, he's got to pass his job interview. It definitely feels weird because he's like, he sees the accident happen, and then the lightning and everything slows down. And, so then he's panicking, his shoes explode, he gets outside and his pants are still on, and he and then he just like, and then he like completely changes his demeanor. He's like, oh, look, she's all pretty, and like, let me grab this hot dog. It would have made more sense if he was panicking and saved her, and then like, oh, a hot dog flies past his head. It's like, oh, I can use this.
Honestly, I think it could have worked really well if we didn't see him grab the hot dog at all, but it's very clear that he suddenly like when he's using it on the dogs, you go, oh my god, he grabbed a hot dog. I think it could have worked as an after-the-fact gag. I think there is no version of him grabbing the hot dog during the car crash that works when we see it.
Yeah, I agree. My thoughts on it overall, I'm kind of in between both you guys. Like, whereas Jeremy said like he liked it on the whole, but there was things he didn't like. I'm kind of the opposite. There's things I liked, but on the whole, I didn't like it. And I do think it was a cool show of his powers, and Jeremy nailed it on the head. I thought it was neat that it was like he was, because they do set up pretty well, with his dad in prison, the scene where he's like trying to work all these dead end jobs and trying to find something that'll stick and blah blah blah. And like it shows he's like really he's trying, okay, I'm gonna get this job, but then he has to like sacrifice that to go save somebody. I thought that was cool. But yeah, I absolutely agree, Danny, with him touching the hair and everything is gross. On a more personal note, I hate that they used Song to the Siren in that scene, because that is one of my favorite songs of all time. And I don't even know that cover, I think, was written for the movie. I read that because the version of that song I like is by This Mortal Coil. But even if I like listen to that on YouTube, all the comments are like, Zack Snyder made this song. I'm like, no, he didn't. Please go away. Leave me alone. Let me listen to my favorite song, one of my favorite songs of the piece.
I think the only other thing I really wanted to mention with the Flash is I don't like that every single time he's using his powers, we get super slow-mo.
Yeah.
I mean, Zack Snyder needs to stop with the slow-mo in the first place. But it felt like every time he used his powers, I'm like, oh God, why are we still doing it? And the only moment it really worked for me was in the Speed Force. But that moment had to earn its trust with me as it was happening, because at that point I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I agree.
Here we go.
I would have liked to have seen maybe some slow motion, but not that much. But I think it would have been so much more impactful, like if he used his powers a little bit, maybe there was a little bit of slow-mo or whatever, but then that last scene with the Speed Force, like it's literally just like time stops, and it's like the first time we see that. It's like, whoa, what's this? And like he's able to not only go through time stop but realize, oh, I can turn time back. And I think that would have been pretty cool and set up for Flashpoint and stuff.
So we're only missing our two big boys now.
The big boys.
The big boys of the movie, the only two that had other movies.
One of them had half of the movie.
That's true. Do we want to go Batman or Superman first?
We could go with Superman because I have feelings about Batman. So
okay.
Okay, Superman. I'm sorry, this is only aesthetic, but we were told he wears black. In the Snyder Cut, and I literally have a note that's like, I literally can't tell if it's black because the lighting is so dark. Like, I literally can't tell if he's wearing a normal suit, but it's just all the colors are so muted that I can't tell, or if he's genuinely in a bona fide black suit.
I have this scenario in my head where Zack Snyder's like, I'm going to dress him in black in this movie. And all the writers like, oh, that's a homage to Death and Return of Superman, where he wore black in the comics. And Zack's like, oh, wait, he actually does that in the comics? I just wanted him to wear black.
See,
I just wanted him to dress.
My favorite thing about Zack Snyder is that he clearly does love the comics. He just doesn't know why he loves the comics. But Superman.
Yeah.
And I guess by extension, Lois Lane.
Yeah, let's just lump them up, yeah.
Real quick with the Lois Lane, I loved that we got 5 scenes of seeing her sad. That felt necessary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could have shown me one and I would have been like, yeah, I guess she would still be sad. To the movie's credit, moving the Martha conversation about you need to get back out in the world. He wouldn't want you to shut yourself out forever. Makes a million times more sense if she's not back at work.
Yeah.
So good job. The context of that scene worked remarkably well until you ruined it all at the end by making it Martian Manhunter.
Okay. If we're going to bring this up now, I want to bring this up now because you kind of touched on it with the Iris West thing, how like a normie would probably not know like who that is. I just imagine when that happened, because I love Martian Manhunter. If we're talking like the core Justice League people, Martian Manhunter is probably my favorite of the Justice League. So I'm glad that they tried to put him in the movie, but I was just imagining when that happened, if I was just a normie who had no idea about anything in the comics, and a scene ends with an established character, Superman's mom, leaving and going and turning into a green person.
No, he turned into the one guy that most people won't recognize from Man of Steel.
Okay.
And then turns into a green
person. I would be like, wait, what the hell? Superman's mom is an alien? I was just picturing in my head, I was like, I wonder if there's anyone out there. I mean, really, the core audience of the Snyder Cut, are DC fans, so I don't picture this would be a common thing. But just playing that scenario in my head is very funny to me. That somebody would be like, "Oh, okay, so Superman's mom's an alien. That's cool. That's cool."
I think I showed that scene, I think, to my parents. They listen to the podcast, so now is the point where they're gonna text me and tell me whether it's true or not. I think I showed them that scene, and they're like, "What? Who's that?" And once again, regardless of whether you understand it or not, it just completely undercuts the entire scene that was actually working before it. Because I thought that scene was really sweet, and like it does sound like something Martha Kent would do. Right. Martha Kent's a lovely gal, and to take that moment from her, so now we really only get her getting kidnapped by Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
It just drove me insane.
I can honestly say that I didn't know who it was when it happened, and I was just super confused because it was like because like I mean, like, again, I don't know how many hours this was in, but I was starting to lose focus on looking at the screen. So then, like, suddenly she turns into an alien, and then she's some dude, and I was like, first of all, what happened? Because it was a nice scene, like it actually made like the thing she was saying, she wasn't manipulating. So it was just like, well, so what's like, is this like, because I like, are my eyes deceiving me? Yeah. Was this just a weird transition that I didn't understand, or was it a because I thought, because I wasn't really looking at it, it was like, was that like a weird looking parademon thing? And I was like,
oh yeah,
why is it like what these things can turn into people now? And
is that the parademon that the Gotham sketch artist saw?
Yeah. It was so. Eventually, when I rewound, I figured out what was happening, and that added another 10 minutes to my runtime, so that wasn't fun. But
oh no,
but yeah, it was. But it still makes no sense to me, and it was just
weird choice,
super bizarre, and
it's the idea that Martian Manhunter knows enough about Lois to care and be like, oh, the world needs Lois Lane too. It's kind of like, that's something that Martha Kent would genuinely believe and make sure she knows. I don't know why Martian Manhunter thinks he needs to be here to do it.
Yeah.
I also love that Martian Manhunter, who is a pretty noble and justice-seeking man, has really not given a shit about anything until the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
When he just shows up at Batman's house and he's like, I think I'm gonna start helping. Like, cool, man. You could have been helping for quite a while now.
I'll let you guys know that if I was there when Darkseid was fucking shit up, I could have stopped him in like 10 seconds. So I might help you guys out now. Just keep that in mind.
It's the Captain Marvel principle.
Basically.
But okay, anyway, Superman.
His I Love Life scenes after being reborn were way too long. There were way too many of them. Obviously, again, this is known, but
that should go without saying for the whole thing. But from here on in, assume that if we're talking about a scene, it's always going to end in. But it was way too long.
But like, because like, didn't they cut to him like during like a battle like 3 times, like just like walking through fields and like picking out an outfit? It's like, I don't care, just hurry up and fly over here.
Yes, I will credit Justice League. They didn't make it so that Superman was having his cornfield happy to be alive things during the final battle.
Cuts to everyone else being massacred, cuts back, and Superman's like carving a pumpkin in the middle of the cornfield. Like, man, this rocks. This is good. Being alive is cool.
Being alive is great. When he goes to the Fortress of Solitude and he's looking around, at first I'm like, okay, yeah, this works. And then we get Kevin Costner and
Russell Crowe.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe. Thank you. Sorry, Russell Crowe. We get both of them giving us lines we've already heard, and I'm like, come on.
Yeah, definitely thought that was
Don't treat me like an idiot. Pretty, please. like, I get it. He's contemplating all that he's learned and what he wants to be because his dad's had very different opinions on what he should be. I didn't need you to hold my hand.
Yeah, definitely. I thought that scene was definitely something that I thought could have, just not been there altogether. Just, would have not gunked things up as bad. This is a moment that was in Justice League, but I still love it. It's probably one of my favorite moments in the movie, and I see people bring it up online all the time too. So I think I'm not alone in this. But when they're all trying to, restrain
Yep.
Superman, and the Flash is
Mhm.
like, "Ooh, I want to be a sneaky boy," and run up behind him, and he goes, looks with his eyes. I'm making sound effects to justify what I'm talking about, but everyone I think knows what I'm talking about. That scene is dope because I
Yeah.
love that
Yes.
scene.
Agreed. Do you bleed? Not that far.
Yeah.
But yes, what you're talking about, the Flash moment, is very fun in both versions.
Yeah. And then I also will say, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to this eventually, but the fact that, Darkseid actually shows up and they have to actually, do stuff with Darkseid.
They actually have to do stuff.
Superman, being able to cut loose. There's a really famous scene. I'm not sure if either of you guys are fans of like the DC animated universe, like the old Justice League Unlimited cartoon. But the season finale of Justice League Unlimited, there's a really, like, a lot of people say it's like one of the most definitive Superman scenes in any media, where like he like gets the shit kicked out of him by Darkseid for a bit, and then he stands up and he does this speech. He's like, you know what my issue is? Like, I've always felt like I've lived in a world made of cardboard, like where I have to restrain every punch I do because I'm afraid I'll break everybody. But you can take it, and he just like beats the shit out of Darkseid. And I thought they nailed that really well in this because Superman, like, he messes Steppenwolf and Darkseid up. Like, he just like every punch, because like Superman, like whether or not you like it or not about him, he is like the godlike being of all superheroes. Like it's like he is the best guy. Like he is the strongest. He's the fastest. And I thought they did that really well when he came back and like decided he was gonna do what needed to be done. I thought they nailed that about him, with him kicking ass. So I thought that was cool.
I guess two more things kind of bugged me, and one of them is just an instance that reminded me how much I hate the characterization of him in these movies. But the other one, when Superman arrives at the final fight, he catches Steppenwolf's axe, freezes it, destroys it, and then like has a one-liner. And it's a pretty cool one-liner, but I gotta say, in the context we know this Superman, no sense.
Yeah.
Like, you have never bantered with anyone in your life, Clark Kent.
That's why it took him so long to get there from that cornfield. He was practicing in front of the mirror. Yeah.
The whole flyover, he was like, "Ice to meet you." No, that's fine.
Let me axe you a shit.
Yeah. But the other thing, it's in the nightmare. I could go for days about that nightmare. And once again, everyone, it was too long. But the nightmare, I think, did generally offer I think, removed from the DC cinematic universe, it presents a concept that I will always find fascinating: the ability to turn Superman, because Superman is this, truth, justice, American way. He's this pinnacle of goodness. And so the concept of him having a breaking point and becoming a tyrant and a bad guy is so fascinating. That's why so many people love the Injustice game and comic series. It's a fascinating idea, and I do enjoy that we were willing to go there. But I think with the way that we have characterized Superman in the Snyderverse so far, it's not as interesting at all.
Yeah.
Because he's not the pinnacle of goodness. He's not really I don't know, I feel like he's not established as I fight for the greater good.
I think that's what they were, with all the excessive scenes of him in the cornfield being like, life is beautiful and blah, blah, blah. I think that's what they were trying to set up. But
Well, for me, it was too little, too
Exactly,
late.
and that's what I was gonna say. That's it's the issue. And once again, here's another hot take that's not really a hot take. DC had just tried to rush into this cinematic universe kind of thing without laying down the groundwork. It's like trying to build a skyscraper and starting with like the roof instead of starting with the floor. It's like you can't do that. And them trying to change his personality, because I don't like it with how they, exactly how you said it, with how his characterization has been in these movies, with him being kind of grim dark and everything.
I just personally feel like you can't pull off an interesting Superman turns bad story if you're already all in on the dark, gritty Superman, you know?
Exactly.
If you wanted to go that route, you needed to make a different choice when you started this, and you didn't. So just find a different way to make this interesting.
Yeah, agreed. I agree with you, yeah.
Okay, Batman. Wow.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
You went way longer than I thought you would.
I could have done the whole theme song. I've been watching a lot of Batman the Animated
believe
Series.
you.
I didn't like Batman in Batman v Superman or the original cut of this disaster. But I will say though that with this, you know, with the Snyder cut here, I feel like I sort of get what he was trying to do with him, and it feels, it's not my favorite by far of, you know, rendition of Batman, but you know, I think what I do like is that it's sort of like depicting him as as like the kind of, this isn't the right word, but like the sort of the kind of behind the scenes sort of leader of this group of people, you know, where he's like, he's not the person that's, you know, out in front, you know, punching everybody and you know, but he's like, he's kind of like the backbone of the group, and that's like what he's able to do. And I really enjoyed seeing that here.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's bizarre to me. It's like his weird, I don't know. There's just a lot. I don't like him. I don't like something just as simple as like Bruce Wayne going to go pick up Barry and, you know, talk to stuff was just weird. Like I didn't fully, you know, I wasn't fully on board with a lot of that, but I don't know. It felt like I think I said this before, that like the only reason that Bruce Wayne went, you know, to instead of Batman was so that they could have the fancy Mercedes product placement, you know, because Batman doesn't drive a Mercedes, you know, but Bruce does. So we have to show this fancy pretend car that doesn't exist, and get all of our money for this uploaded movie. So.
I think it reaches parody levels for me, how everyone in this world seems to know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And it's not surprising, since he's going around basically hinting to every stranger in the world that he's Batman. But
the fact that he pulls a batarang out of his coat and throws it at Barry Allen, I just imagine Bruce Wayne like eating at a restaurant wearing that same coat, and they bring the bill and reaches to pull out his credit card, and he pulls out the batarang. He's like, "Shit, fuck!" Puts it in his coat. Sorry, wrong pocket.
And like, it's just funny because in the end, like, Deathstroke's like, "So Lex, you gonna tell me who Batman is?" And Lex is like, "Oh, you really don't know? It's Bruce Wayne, man." You could have asked my goon over here who he was. Like, honestly, take a poll on the street. Someone's gonna get it right. My gripe is just overall mostly exemplified in the Nightmare, and it's a problem with characterization. And I think it's just different because, okay, I'm sorry, it's a point people have talked about all the time. Batman kills people in the DC cinematic universe, which okay, not a fan of that. And the reason is, okay, why is the Joker still alive?
I mean, he's so annoying. Just kill him.
He's annoying. He killed his Robin. Like, what's it gonna take for you to kill this guy, Batman? Because he has that whole monologue in the nightmare. He's like, when I kill you, and make no mistake, I will kill you. I'm like, it really becomes a trolley problem with how many people are you going to let this trolley hit before you stop it,
Yeah,
Bruce?
and I just want to clarify, it's not I will kill you, it's I will fucking kill you.
Yeah,
No,
sorry.
that's
It's very
important.
edgy.
Yeah, it's very important. Yeah,
Every time they use fucking in this movie, I'm just like,
yeah.
oh boy.
This
13-year-old boys rejoice.
I'm stealing this from another podcast that I listened to, but it was the exact feeling that I had when that scene. Yeah, we could probably do a whole podcast just about the nightmare stuff, but in that nightmare scene when Batman says to the Joker, I will fucking kill you, the vibe it gave me, if you go onto YouTube and just type in Batman fan film, you'll see a lot of teenagers making shitty movies of them wearing Party City Batman and the Joker costumes and saying shit like that, like I'm gonna fucking kill you, Joker. I fucking hate you, Joker. Joker, you're a bitch. And it's just like, that's literally the vibe.
Now I want to see a real Batman movie where Batman's like, "You're a bitch" to the Joker.
That's the whole. Hey, if they would have made the actual whatever Injustice or Nightmare movie, whatever they were leading up to, you would have
Probably
gotten
would've.
your wish.
But yes, it bothers me because I'm like, you seem to not have any qualms killing criminals who are doing not minor things. They're still pretty major crimes, but like not to you personally. You're not personally affected by these crimes. And the Joker is killing the kids that you're taking under your wing. And you're like, no, I probably shouldn't kill him.
Yeah. And I wonder if it's like the meta thing, because there's always been this stuff. It pops up in a lot of comics, like Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, and it's something that gets brought up a lot, where it's like, oh, Batman, he doesn't kill the Joker because like subconsciously he like needs it, like he needs to fight crime, but like obviously they don't spell that out in this movie. But I'm wondering if like that's what Zack Snyder's going for, like if he is playing into that. I feel like he's not, because
Yeah, again, I was because Zack Snyder holds your hand through all of his themes and ideas.
Yeah.
So fanboys telling me exactly what he meant when it wasn't clear in the film tells me that that's what's going on in their heads, not Zack's.
Exactly.
Zack Snyder makes it very clear what he thinks what's it all about.
Exactly.
And it's like that. It's like the Martha moment. I am just so exhausted by people who think not liking the Martha moment in Batman v Superman is a lack of understanding of what he's trying to say. Because I'm like, hey man, it was a flashing neon sign. I fully understood the message. I'm saying that this was probably the dumbest possible way to deliver the message.
Absolutely. One thing I will say, and this is kind of like a Batman and a Flash moment, that they got rid of, and honestly for me in Justice League it was one of my favorite bits, when they're trying to wherever they're holding Silas Stone, I can't remember where it is, it's like a water plant or a sewer or something, and like the Flash is like, I don't know what to do, like I've never done anything, like usually I just like push people over, and like Batman like gets over and he's like, hey, like just save one person if you can do.
It's the Hawkeye Wanda moment.
Basically, yeah, exactly.
It works.
Yeah, and now I didn't even think of that. Now that you're saying that, that makes me kind of hate it. But
oh well, you're welcome. It's gone.
Yeah, thank you. Moot point. Get it out of here. But I'm trying. On the whole, like Jeremy and you both have pretty much nailed my thoughts on Batman in this. It's a shame though, because I think that Ben Affleck, in terms of like the look and the mannerisms, he's probably my second favorite live action Bruce Wayne actor. And I just feel bad that it was like in these movies that he had to do that.
I mean, yeah. I find it, for me personally, I can't even rank him in Batman because I feel like he didn't even get remotely a fair chance to show whether he could do it.
And that's pretty much, what I'm saying is that I think as Bruce Wayne, he knocks it out of the park, but as Batman, I think he's awful. and I don't think that's his fault at all. I think it's the writing. I hate the bat suit. I understand that it's an homage to The Dark Knight Returns, but it looks bulky and ugly in my opinion. I just hate the way it looks. He looks like a squat little.
He doesn't look like he can move
No,
either.
at all. It does not look. It's like the part in what is it? The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan Dark Knight, where he's like, "Can I finally like turn my head?" Like when his suit gets moved because it's like it was so restrictive. Like that's what that suit looks like. His stupid robot voice, like you bleed. It's just like I get why they did that, but at the same time, it's so stupid, and I hate it. Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the Justice League. We got them all.
Woo.
Any let's go round the 3 rooms we're all separately in. And any last minute things, like thoughts, things you didn't get to say because the context wasn't right or something?
I mean,
Go.
like overall, I definitely liked this movie more than I expected to. I don't know if we mentioned this, but it was pretty long, and it could have been a lot shorter. It probably could have been 2 movies, but you know, it was a lot better than I had expected, and I legitimately enjoyed parts of it. So yeah, that's as nice as I'll be.
Yeah, pretty much. I would say that too. I mean, if we're comparing the cuts, like if I had to pick which one I liked better, I absolutely agree. I would say Snyder Cut I enjoyed more just because there was more for me to enjoy. I guess when you throw that much content at the wall, I'm bound to like something in there. Other than that, though, I'm trying to think. Just kind of a general thing that I have in my notes here is that it's like being Stockholm syndromed by a movie because it's so long. You eventually have to start, like when I liked, because I've watched that scene, I've gone back to the Speed Force scene with the Flash that we brought up is kind of like the best part of the movie, I think, for all of us. Like I was like, did I really like that, or was it just because I was 4 hours into this 4.5 movie? I was like,
everything around it so bad.
Yeah, I was just fucking thrilled because we were getting to the end. But no, I did end up liking that, but I thought that was funny, and I just wanted to say that.
I guess for me, it's how I've always felt about Zack Snyder. I think he has some fun ideas, and I think he needs to learn how to edit a movie. Because, yeah, almost every scene starts with me going, okay, I like what you're going for here. And then 20 minutes later, when we're still in the same scene, I'm like, okay, we probably should have moved on.
Yeah. Yep.
But Zack Snyder is also the only man with the courage to put my girl Granny Good in the movie. I told both of you, I don't care what else happens in this 4.5 hour movie. If Granny Good shows up in any capacity, I'm sold. And guess what happened, guys? She's here.
Congratulations.
I am good to my word. So Zack Snyder, 10 out of 10.
And I know you just made me remember too something else that never really came up in context. The flashback scene. My favorite character in the whole movie was the nameless Green Lantern that we saw in the flashback movie, in the flashback scene, because I love Green Lantern, and that poor little alien man gave his life to fight Darkseid.
Okay, but small tangent. I can't believe I'm about to compliment the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, but they did interesting things with the ability with what the ring grants your ability to do. Because in the Snyder Cut, I agree. I love that little green alien. I love that he's there. He's a champion. Ranked only second only behind Granny Good. But a lot of people just seem to want the Green Lanterns to shoot green beams. Not with an M. I would like them to shoot green beans. But you know, like the ring has so much more imaginative uses. So while I loved his inclusion and what he did, I was just kind of like, come on, do something. I'm like that little kid on the tricycle in The Incredibles. Like, do something.
I don't know. Something cool.
Yeah. But yes, I do agree.
Yeah, definitely. Give me a good Green Lantern movie before I die, please.
We
I
probably
know,
won't,
yeah,
but
probably not. But
But hey, okay. So we're wrapping up. Time for apologies. Jeremy, do you know how this works?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, one of us will go before you then,
Okay.
and then we won't make you end it.
Okay.
But we just apologize to the world and to our viewers for anything really. It can be something from within the podcast that we've talked about. From it can just be random. You can just whatever's been on your mind.
Okay.
Apologize for it.
Okay.
well, I will go first then. I would like to apologize to the more obscure DC characters that we'll probably never see in a movie. Off the top of my head, somebody like Dog Welder. We'll probably never see him in a movie. In case you don't know who Dog Welder is, he's literally a person who carries around dead dogs and welds them to people with a welding torch. And he
To what end?
to do it.
And,
in the comics, there's Dog Welder 2 because after the original Dog,
he gets a copycat.
after the original Dog Welder dies, his welding mask and welding torch ends up in a pawn shop. And a person buys them, and the moment he puts the mask on, he gets possessed by the spirit of Dog Welder.
Is this in Gotham? This sounds like a very Gotham thing.
If he ended up in Gotham, that would be. I can't remember. It's a group called Section 8 is the name of the group.
Oh,
and they
boy.
all have really weird powers. I'm trying to remember what other ones off the top of my head. There's like a guy who only has super strength when he's drunk. And a whole bunch of like basically it's like a comedy kind of thing, but at the same time it's like really dark comedy. And Dog Welder also never talks; he just welds dogs to people. I think that's really funny.
Just imagining him in Arkham Asylum. Like, what are you in for? I just tend to weld dead dogs onto people.
So that's my apology.
Why? It's a living.
I apologize to Dog Welder that he'll never get his due in live action.
Okay, you want to go?
Sure. I apologize to my finger. I just realized that I got a paper cut somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes ago, and I've been trying to stop it from bleeding for the past 15 minutes.
Oh my God, Jeremy!
This is the last thing Jeremy's ever going to do. He bled out while discussing the Snyder.
Okay, we need to apparently ask our viewers to rewind and then listen with the knowledge that Jeremy has been bleeding for a great amount of time.
And see if you can tell me when I started bleeding, because I don't really know what happened.
It's like Dora the Explorer. Like, can you tell us when Jeremy starts bleeding?
You just got to enhance the audio and hear the paper go across the finger.
Yep.
Oh my God. I am going to apologize to all of the DC movies so far because the Suicide Squad's coming out and it's going to knock out all our socks off. And it's going to make all of these guys look like putzes.
I can't wait.
I am a little too excited. It is going to disappoint me because my expectations are not too high, which has never happened for a DC movie so far.
Well, hey, I'm remembering flashbacks to back when we were in college, Danny and I, and the original Suicide Squad movie was coming out. And
we were so
we
excited.
would discuss it for hours on end over text, like, oh man, I can't wait to see. It looks so good. The trailer makes it look so dramatic and beautiful. And then we were
and fun and quirky.
And we were sorely disappointed. So hopefully that doesn't happen this time around.
Well, James Gunn has more resume to back his, he's earned my trust.
Very true.
I'm not misplacing it already.
Yeah, very true.
But I'm excited for it. And Starro's gonna be there.
God, I can't believe Starro is gonna be there. Starro,
I can't. That is a villain that has James Gunn written all over it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, well then that is that for today. Hope you don't mind how much me talk. Let's be real. I'm so sorry. I was very dominating. But hope you enjoyed. Leave us a like and subscribe. No. Do what you want. If you want to engage with the comments, I'm trying to think of every time we do this a way to beg people to talk to us even though they won't. If you want to tell us what you did and didn't like about the Snyderverse, and keep it civil.
Yeah, very true.
You're allowed to enjoy it, even though we just spent an hour and a half shitting on it. Just opinions, everyone has one. But stay safe. Keep doing what's best for you and your family in terms of that. That is up to your discretion.
To your discretion, but I
and the business's discretion.
Yeah, very true. Upgrade to 5G as soon as you can, guys. Get the chip. Get the chip in your arm.
Okay, well, bye.
I'm still bleeding.